fast track?
Yeah, let's do the fast track.
Let's do it. So after stir, what came for me was more stirring. Like it or not, I got people saw me as a person who would interact with those beings that we call scientists, technicians, engineers. So that's what I've been doing in most of the postdocs that came after my PhD, dealing with lawyers, with technical firms, very different projects, very different expectations, very different goals, very different research. So I'm not going to go in deep with all of them. Some were really disgusting projects funded by the European Commission, which were basically, in my opinion, there were subsidies to R&D departments of big tech giants, and there would be some poor lads doing social scientists on the other side that would actually account for the project and have to do most of the work, because most of the money would be streamlined to those firms and under the label of research, but it was actually like helps that wouldn't say their names, like subsidies. Other research was really different with Brice Laurent at the School of Mines Paris Tech, the CSI, Center for Sociology of Innovation. We questioned the role of algorithms and predictive models in regulation for chemical substances, and trying to deal with the new REACH regulation in Europe. And then came that project on the genomics information. This was the poster of the last, the concluding conference where Sheila Jazanov was in Liège as our host, as a keynote speaker. Again, this idea of studying in-lab practices on the making. And we came up with this idea of opening spaces of shareable perplexities. Because those practitioners in the hospital were so overwhelmed by the pace of developments, with new generation sequencing, one machine coming after the other, the fast succession of different instruments. They were really always in a hurry to catch up, and always questioning what was the purpose of all of this race, trying to figure that out on the go. And I could tell they were really happy to have someone as an embedded humanist to just push the button pause for 2 hours, taking a coffee, discussing about what is it that they do, and the craziness of this super fast evolution and all these changes and all these protocols and all these machines and tools and instruments. So they were really welcoming some, let's say, some echo about what is it that they do, because they couldn't catch up with it. So that's why I called it spaces of shareable perplexities, because they say we have no idea where this is all going, or what is it that we're doing on the run. And I'm like, well, that's good news, because I don't have any ideas neither. So let's talk about this, and just devote some space and time for this discussion. Actually was important. Then I will skip the quotes, but I think the idea with the common language, like I said in the earlier, I think it's important that it revolves around materiality of objects or practices or techniques, because the common language may entail words that have very different meanings for scientists or for social scientists. I'll just take the example of I guess, I don't know where it's in the slides now, but this notion of population, because when you study bioinformatics as a practice, you see people dealing with computer scripts, algorithms, programs, and they're always trying to craft population somehow. What's included, what's in, what's out, how do we construct data sets, what do we consider, what do we include, what do we neglect, and somehow population speaks in a whole different way to social scientists, because you think about biopolitics, you think about Michel Foucault, theories on biopolitics being the management of this weird conceptual tool that's been called populations. And I'm not saying that these two have a straight way of being connected and to relate to each other, these two notions of population from bioinformatics to biopolitics. However, there is something to that word that can speak to both disciplines on different sides of different perspectives on this crafting of data sets and what is it that you include in. So I can take the example of the NIPT, which is a non-invasive prenatal techniques, because while I was doing the fieldwork on genomics, all of a sudden the Ministry of Public Health decided to fund and to reimburse the NIPT test. It's a test that you do during a pregnancy, at a very early stage of the pregnancy, to detect possibility of a Down syndrome, right? And I was there in Liège while the bioinformatics guy were implementing the protocol. And funny fact, they took the protocol from KU Leuven, and it just wouldn't work, wouldn't make sense at all. It had to be all accustomed to the local IT ecology before it would make actual sense. And then there was this issue of, okay, that all analysis is capable of telling the sex of the fetus in the legal time frame for what do you call it in English, like the interrupting the child
Abortion.
yeah, abortion, basically. It's the same in French. So it's a problem, because if you can know the sex within the legal time frame for abortion, it can lead to decision based on that knowledge, which you couldn't possess otherwise before. And so I was there with the bioinformatics. They've been trying not to include the sex on the PDF that is generated as the analysis, the result of the analysis of the NIPT test, but that was bypassed by the management of the lab, who said, no, look, they're putting that information here and there and there. If you want to stay in the competition, people will want to know the sex as early as they can. And now there are gender reveal baby showers ahead of that information being visible on an ecography, So crazy way of changing the relationship to sex, also to the Down syndrome itself, because it's more accurate. So there's a diminution in the prevalence of Down syndrome in Belgium population. So it's a way of making population on gender accounts, on pathology accounts, on different accounts. So this is where you can go from bioinformatics as a practice to population as a matter of interest for political sciences. This is the big Leviathan with a stethoscope. I really like this image. I did it myself for a seminar series, but the people who ran the seminar series never wanted that to illustrate. That's no problem. So I guess, yeah, the insights I got, I won't go in deep about that. Just those studies in the genomics have led me now to discuss the role of cows, the role of genomics in animal selection and reproduction, so more leaning towards environmental humanities, with this project that's been funded by the European Research Council. It's called the Body Societal, and it's about all the values that are entangled in cattle selection and reproduction. And because the situation of, to put it very short, the situation of after World War II livestock management is a situation of disaster and catastrophe. There's been this trend towards production that's been very steep, like the yield of a cow in terms of milk production has tripled or even quadrupled over 50 years of time. And it has led to a situation where bodies of the cows are exhausted, or the environments are exhausted with all the nitrogen released, the methane released. And there's been a terrible loss of genetic diversity in livestock populations. So now genomics technologies are kind of promising to save the day, right? To make healthier animals in happier environments with less greenhouse gases emissions. and to put back some diversity in the herds. It does not really work in practices, but that's all we're looking. That's all we are researching into, like how to match the promises with actual practices, and most importantly, how to take seriously those promises of ecological remediation. The promises of technologies here are starting to get interesting, because they're not promises of a market, the promises of a better world. Then we can interfere with that. We can discuss about what is a better world, what is it that these technologies want to achieve, because these technologies acknowledge the problems in the first place of overproductivism, of market-oriented research and development, and they're saying somehow we have to mitigate. And it's very, I'm not telling this in principle or as a matter of moral obligations. I'm telling this in terms of designing the indexes for selection and reproduction. These indexes used to consider production as the main and even the sole, the only factor to consider. And then in the 80s came some health considerations, because there was some trade-offs between producing a lot and having animals that were sick all the time, and vets cost and stuff like that. And now increasingly in the indexes, they're trying to mitigate with methane emissions, quality of the meat, all sorts of different parameters that they try to find and associate with the genes. And my take on this is to take it seriously and say, okay, let's go. What is important for you? What are the values you want literally to incorporate in cattle selection? Values of health, values of biodiversity, values of environment. How does that work? How is it made operational? I'm interested. I would like to follow that, And so to carry out this research, I'm fortunate enough that I have this shitload of money from the commission. So there's myself and 3 PhD students and 3 postdocs, and sometime soon there's going to be a 4th postdoc. So it's rather large team of research, which has been on tracks for a year already. We're all going to the Forest Conference, so if you're there in Mexico, please pass by and say hi. And we have 2 more years to go with the postdocs, and then the PhD will have 1 more year to write the PhD, and then we'll move on to something else, perhaps a program on its own. But yeah, that's kind of where I am now, and that's kind of my take on interdisciplinary collaboration. Now working with farmers, with policymakers, with public agencies for farming, scientists, technicians, lab engineers, what have you. Yeah. So thank you very much for your attention. I won't be any longer, so we can have room for discussion.
Great. Thank you so much, François. I know that time is short, so I don't know if you have time for any questions, but
yeah, like a couple.
Yeah, okay. So Marika.
I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to say that I find this very, very interesting. And if ever there is a talk coming up in Liège or a workshop, please let me know. I'm happy to come by, because I think this is really fascinating. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. We're gonna have actually a workshop in Amsterdam in April. Maybe we can find a way to get you in. Yeah, because yeah, since I went from 1 year from being a precarious postdoc to becoming an academic Mandarin or Baron, I just was super freaked out about it. There's no way I can, just flee or escape. I have to account somehow, And then the way I found is every season, so spring, summer, autumn, winter, we organized a 1-week residency. So we go in a remote place and we work all together. So I could tell everyone in the project, okay, in between 2, do whatever you please, go wherever you want. But well, the only formal thing I'm asking you is those weeks, please do make it a sanctuary in your agenda. Push everything before, after, make room for us to gather every 3 months for 1 whole week. And that's been super great as a method, because then we can catch up with whatever the whereabouts of everyone, and then we can get hands-on workshops of writings and stuff like that, and then debrief and delineate perspectives for what's coming next. It's a bit inspired from also you remember, Eric, this Flam Railway workshop in Norway, yeah, I think those kind of configurations are so important to carry out good research. Yeah.
Sounds really nice. Yeah, let me know.
We're coming to Amsterdam someday soon.
Great. Gerd, I see you're here. Great to see you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, merci beaucoup, François. Merci de Gand. I would like to get back to what you said about the link you made about embeddedness and going to bed, and would like to stretch that metaphor a little bit further, because at this very moment I'm setting up a project proposal with several R&D partners in a responsible innovation project, and in a way what I'm doing now, attracting these partners, I sometimes feel like that I'm seducing them, and in a way several elements come up that have to do with seduction. I feel like I do not tell anything that I know, everything that I know about STIR or socio-technical integration. I also sometimes leave them in their illusion of what it might bring about. And sometimes I also oversell myself and oversell what the project might do, I think. So, and also what you said about that when you were like a newcomer, you, in a way you could say that you were like naive in your belief what it could bring about. So well, yeah, maybe just an introduction to ask you about something like ethos, and also about, did you become a better seducer or a better lover?
Both, I guess, because I could seduce the ERC, which is the ultimate seduction exercise. What I can tell is I've been through some really rough experiences with Namur, which have this very routine habit of getting embedded on European Commission projects, which are at best useless and at worst can be very dangerous. I'm referring to some projects that were to anticipate where so-called pirates would attack some boats on the shores of Somalia or whatever poor country, where some poor people just try to get on a ship to get a bit of money or things to eat, you know. They were trying to design weapons that you would put on the boat to expel those people and put them back in the water, you know, and put social scientists on board to, like, literally on board to design the privacy issues with those cameras and sensors. You know, not sure this is what the kind of things you want to contribute to. Though if you're in Ghent, I'm always happy to have a discussion where you can present, because I think I've quite some experience in those sort of let's say complicated situations. What I can tell as well is one day I had the ultimate experience that really killed all my ideas about the possibility of a common language. It was this SALT program I just briefly talked about. So SALT was a framework that some IT engineers wanted to design with the help of the generous help of the European Commission. And SALT would stand for Socio, Anthropological, Technical, Legal Framework for Surveillance Technologies in Public Spaces. So they wanted to make a script. You want to put cameras for example, in a public space, public square, or in a school. You could encode all your parameters: if is Germany, if is over or under 18, if is public, if is private, you know, all your ifs. And then the software tells you, green light, you can go put your camera, red light, no, you can't, or orange light, yes, you might, under condition, you know. But to do that, that's me translating, because they had this all layers of discourses that didn't make sense at all, because they were telling we need to design a SALT framework with a SALT reference system. It was all a sort of match, you know, a mix and match of social science words with IT scripts words like references, database, and stuff. And of course, the lawyers and the ethicists and the philosophers in the project were like, there's no black or white, it's only gray zones, discussions, matters of dispute, matter of ethics, matter of concern, what have you. And then at some point, the IT guys always come back with this vocabulary. And I realize everyone pretends that it's all super clear what we are talking about, but actually nobody has a clue. Like literally nobody. So I'm doing this experiment once I'm in Vienna to a consortium meeting, and I'm saying, okay, I will try to speak nonsense for 45 minutes. I will take all the words of the project and I will make them even blurrer, even more cloudy than they already are. And I just spent 45 minutes talking absolute nonsense, just opacity and concepts and meta concepts and meta analysis of the meta, like it was really crazy. I had much fun doing it. And at the end, the coordinator of the project came to me and was, wow, thank you, François. That's very inspiring. And that's when I understood, those words, they really can, it can be like a fog, where everybody drowns. And still, that doesn't prevent you from getting the funding and getting the project having good evaluation from the commission because you deliver somehow. So yeah, I guess common language perhaps, but depending on what terms.
That's a great question. What constitutes a common language, and can bullshit be a common language? Bullshit is a technical term, which I think Michiel van Oudhousden has been studying for some time, and others. Well, yeah, I mean, I think I really like Gert's distinction between the seducer and the lover, because one seems to be in earnest and the other one is really feigning, or one could say more, less authentic and more hypocritical, more instrumental, less normative. I mean, I think there's lots of different ways to map that out, but yeah, if we are going to look at our relations, our social interactions, through a sort of in bed with metaphor, then I think that opens up as many possibilities as it closes down. And I think also that, François, your style of provocation and the sort of delight that we all take in the way in which you're able to sort of conduct it, and the fact that it gets such different responses it's really something, and it's really I think something to continue to reflect on and to sort of see as a source of not just performance art, you could say, but also a form of inquiry, and I think also a form of just coping with modernity.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I really appreciate it. I don't want to keep you much longer, but I do want to just give you the opportunity to just close us down with any final reflections.
Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you for the invitation, and also, thank you for putting my feet on stir sort of engagement endeavor back in the days. This has been very important for me to be where I am now and being able to speak to you all. So I wanted to express my gratitude towards you and to all of you who attended today. I'm very grateful that you were there and listening to me for such a long time. I hope I wasn't too boring, and I, of course, can answer further questions or further comments by email or whatever. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks again, François. Really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for joining. And we'll see you for our last seminar next month. So